setting the stage for your Georgia Saturday. This is DawgNation Game Day. Brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors, Kroger, R.S. Andrews, and Jittery Joe's Coffee. Now here's your host, Kaylee Mansell.
Neyland Stadium, Neyland Stadium, Neyland Stadium. The hardest place to play on the road in the SEC, the hardest place to play anywhere, Jeff, allegedly. But fortunately for us, we're not there quite yet because we're floating down the Tennessee River with a bunch of Dawg fans.
I tell you what, Kaylee, you hear banjos in the background probably. It sounds like Kaylee's been reading her press clippings for the entertainment spectacle about hyping up this game. Kaylee, I'm going to stay on brand all week. I just don't see it. I really don't see it. I feel like Georgia has the better football team. I'm sure we're going to get into this, but I feel like two big edges. Georgia's got the better players, a sizable edge in players, and I don't expect the University of Tennessee to outcoach the Georgia football staff today.
You know what? I feel a lot better about this game right now than I did when the week started. I thought the big thing going into it was Georgia's either going to prevail or they're going to come out exposed. But after we've done some DawgNation content this week, realizing that there's such a talent advantage, I think there's no question that Georgia prevails today.
Well, you know, we gotta put in the football math, right? If Georgia turns the ball over 3 times, that opens up a door. But who's to say Tennessee is not going to turn the ball over as well? I think it's really interesting to see how Tennessee is going to move the ball against Georgia's defense, especially when, you know, a lot of Dawg fans want to have their Fred G. Sanford moments about, oh my gosh, the offensive line. Tennessee's offensive line is patchwork. They only have one starter back from last year. One projected starter they gave a lot of NIL is out. And, you know you've got a good football team when you're floating down the banks of the Tennessee River and you see a lot of people in overalls, and that's all they're wearing, honking at you, giving you the thumbs down. I think DawgNation's in a great spot today.
Well, one thing that they can't say is they haven't been impressed by the bow. I don't know if we've had one pass yet that's been bigger than this, and it certainly stands out in all the orange. I think going into today, there's 2 things that I'm the most excited for. Number one is there's no cupcakes anymore. We're not holding back a playbook at this point. We're going to learn so much about what this Georgia offense specifically is capable of. I kind of just want to know from you, how does this game and the outcome of it set the tone for the rest of the season?
You know what? I've got a dream scenario for Georgia today. And walk with me on this one, Kaylee.
I'm here.
What if Georgia looks like they did week 1, week 2, not having to show a lot, not having to, ask Gunner to stretch the field, and then they still come away with a 28-14, 28-17 type win? I think Georgia fans would be maddened by that because they want to see Colby Young have 2 touchdowns. Yeah. They want to see tight ends catch balls. They want to see Zachariah Branch with another breakout. And they obviously want to see Noah Thomas. All the new toys come to fruition. I just remember last year, Kaylee, everybody walked back with me in the DawgNation pregame show time machine. You remember how big the tight ends were last year?
Yeah.
Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, and the Tennessee game last year. I think Georgia, the classic Georgia fan response is, oh, we're not showing anything yet. We're hiding that. We don't want anybody to see that yet. I think Georgia is just finding out that they don't have to go to extreme measures to win these football games early.
Yeah, I could see this being a go drive for drive, see what you can do. In the past 5 years, I believe Tennessee scored first in this matchup, so nobody overreact quite yet, but Tennessee's able to do that again. One thing I'm really thankful for alongside being here with so many Georgia fans, just being able to have this opportunity, is the fact that I get to talk to everyone on the DawgNation staff today in person. Jeff's going to join us first. We'll do a little Gunner Stockton talk as well as some Sentell's intel. We'll talk about some of those tight ends and pass catchers that you brought up, and I want to get your updated opinion on Noah Thomas as well. Then we'll have Mike Griffith come in. We know he's from Knoxville, been around this area a long time. He's going to help me do the opponent preview, discuss what we need to know about Tennessee. Are they the real deal? Then Connor Riley's going to come join me. We'll do an updated injury report, as well as your impact players. Connor's joining me for that this week. I feel like we've got 4 really good guys on deck, and then today's show is going to be wrapped up with none other than Brandon Adams. That's if we're able to find him in all this chaos.
Brandon, the closer. Kaylee, we got to say a little bit about the group here today. The food looks a little bit better on this cruise. It's been upgraded, kind of like Georgia's wide receiver room. We've got a DJ. Might have seen some DawgNation staffers dancing a little bit earlier as we took off.
It wasn't me.
You've got the slabs of ribs. You've got chicken wings. I also learned, Kaylee, we've got some DawgNation people here that traveled as far away as Nebraska.
Wow.
To be here for this riverboat cruise.
Not Dylan Raiola country.
No.
All right, of course, the reason that we're all here today in the first place, Georgia does its first SEC matchup. Also happens to be a road game in a tough environment regardless. Let's do a little series history. A lot between the two, even though it's not really considered to be one of Georgia's big three rivals. UGA leads the all-time series 29-23-2. First meeting being in 1899. Georgia's on an 8-game winning streak. All of those have been by 14 points or more. And if they were to win today, they would tie the series record. Tennessee currently holds it with 9 wins starting in 1989. Also, too, when Georgia finally got over that hump in 2000, that was the last time they rushed the field at Sanford Stadium. In the last 15, Georgia 13-2, 6-1 in Knoxville, has won in Neyland 4 straight times. And then when we look at Kirby Smart, 8-1 against the Vols. Heupel 0-4 against Georgia. And the thing is, I feel like when we get to this game during the season, there's always a little bit of nerves that comes with it because Tennessee has that weird offense. It feels like they're on the right path, but then you look at the numbers and you realize it really hasn't been that competitive.
I feel like what Tennessee does well is they take advantage of, we just have better guys than you. They take advantage of stretching you out. They take advantage of, can you stop the run with 4 or 5 guys? Well, folks, that's what Georgia has been built to do under Kirby Smart. I love that stat parade you had right there. Let me see if I can float in 2 more. Number 1, Georgia is 9-3 in Knoxville this century.
Wow.
9-3. The number 2 stat is, I liked how you were dancing around the win streak. Should Georgia win 9 games in a row today, later this evening, that would be the longest winning streak for Georgia ever in the history of the rivalry.
Wow. And it's interesting to look at, you see the Josh Heupel 0-4 against Georgia. This feels like the last notch that he needs in his belt to really get through that SEC gauntlet. It's beat Alabama twice. This is the one thing that he hasn't done. Can I ask you, were you there in 2000 when Georgia stormed the field at Sanford?
Yes. Yeah, I was there. I was in the stands. I was around a lot of people that were maybe overserved. And what they were doing is they were literally 8-9 minutes left in the game. They were just sitting there going tick, 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 because it looked like Georgia had the game in hand, and they couldn't wait till the clock hit 3 zeros. And you were going over a lot of things there, Kaylee. The other thing that comes to my mind right now is you see Rocky Top fans go by in speedboats sometimes. I think right now Kirby Smart is to Josh Heupel what Nick Saban was to Kirby Smart. I mean, that's one of those things where you're not beating the best man in the conference, but then nobody else is either. And somehow he's found a way to beat Alabama one time. Tennessee actually went 15-1 against Nick Saban. Right now, Kirby's in the middle of building a streak like that. Loses his first ever meeting with Tennessee, obviously on that Hail Mary pass that everybody will remember like a dagger. But then after that, Kirby and Georgia have taken care of business.
Well, I hate putting out hypotheticals, but I feel like it's a fair question to ask in this instance. If Tennessee were to somehow pull away with the win, do they storm the field today?
I think they would, yeah, because especially how it's been, they just need that kind of momentum. Tennessee is one of those fans. And listen, let's call Georgia fans out. Georgia was that way for a lot of years in the Mark Richt era, where they think they're very, very good. They think they're a top 5 team in the country. When in reality, Georgia was always maybe a top 10, top 15 team. But they're really ready, especially after some years of down quarterback play, years where they didn't really think they had the right guy as head coach. And I think a Heupel victory would certainly stamp him. They might think about naming some streets after him in Tennessee, because then all of a sudden the Tennessee victory, they would go all the way up into the top 5, and that would be something. Expectations really way heavy on the head here in Rocky Top.
So I got to thank you for a second, because you have become my go-to guy for Gunner Stockton talk, which is exactly what we're going to do now in this moment. I want to look back on his performance from last week's game. You take a look at the stats. One thing that we really wanted to see more of was successful downfield passing. 26 for 34 on the day, 227 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, but also 0 interceptions, and no interceptions on the year this far. He had 5 carries for 13 yards. We saw him run a lot more in that game 1. Not too disappointed about that, because I wanted to see the other running backs get some time out there and see who can be in that number 2 position. But after the game, I felt like Georgia fans walked away really disappointed with Georgia's offensive performance. But then you look at the stats on the screen, and it really doesn't look that bad.
I mean, that's a lot of Gunner games. I mean, people bring up the Notre Dame game last year. The best defense Gunner has still probably ever faced. I don't think Tennessee's defense is as good as the Notre Dame defense was a year ago. And I think Gunner went 24 out of 34 or 24 out of 40 for 230. That's what a Gunner Stockton game looks like. And the one thing, you know, you ask anybody on this boat, anybody walking around this stadium today, they're like, Georgia's going to have to give Tennessee some help for them to win this football game or even be in this football game. If you see the one thing Gunner Stockton is not doing is he is not making any mistakes. He is not leaving the barn door open where I'm going to rip this ball in a bad spot because he knows he doesn't need to. I will remind folks, obviously there was a Nate Frazier fumble last week. There was a London Humphreys fumble last week. Georgia cashes in those drives. Maybe they actually get through on the goal line when that horrible injury happened to Ethan Barbour. I think people look at that game a lot differently, so that's self-inflicted. But I think last week you saw what Georgia looks like when they're kind of tripping all over themselves.
And I feel like just across the board, we're going to learn so much about him today because of the environment that he's coming into. It's his first road start. Now, he's played in some neutral sites, just like in the SEC Championship and against Notre Dame, but this is technically the first one. Kirby Smart was asked earlier this week about how Gunner can handle the pressure of this environment. This is what Kirby had to say.
I think it's going to be great. I mean, it's something that we practice for all year round. I don't believe in waiting until the week of the game. You know, we do it in spring. We do it all preseason camp. We put a lot of pressure on the players in practice to communicate. A lot of times it's to keep both sides of the ball from hearing each other talk. So we want there to be, I don't want them to hear their coaches talk. So you got to crank it up, and it almost becomes the norm to do that. But there's also a defense over there that you're trying to simulate, and that's hard to simulate because they are very good defensively. They create a lot of issues, very intelligent with their defensive staff in terms of protections, looks. They know what you're thinking, and they try to counter that. So that's the hurdle for us offensively that we all have to get over, is making sure we understand what they're trying to do and understand what we're trying to do and do it better than they do it.
So there's one more person I want to hear from, and then we'll chat about it. I feel like we keep hearing about this version of Gunner Stockton that they get to see in practice. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but somebody gave us some really good insight into it this week. This is Colby Young.
He's explosive in practice. You know, I've seen him make unbelievable next level plays. You know, he has an unbelievable arm. I like to say he's like kind of like a Russell Wilson type, the way he puts the ball in the air and he just drop it in the bucket. You know, but when we play defenses that are not allowing us to throw that, we got to make sure just don't force it. You know, we got a great running game, and just stay confident in yourself. It's going to come eventually. We got a long season ahead, and we're going to have a successful season throwing the ball. So just stay confident it's going to come.
Now, you've probably seen Gunner more than anybody outside of the current Georgia program. What is this version of him that maybe we haven't seen yet, and do you think that comes out today?
So, Kaylee, I don't know if Georgia needs to pull it out today. I mean, like I said earlier, it might be maddening for DawgNation for Georgia to have a solid win on the road without seeing Gunner Stockton play like he's walking on the Tennessee River right here. Here's what I've learned a lot through fall camp. The offense was ahead of Georgia's defense, and Gunner was really good on those shot plays. I'll be honest, DawgNation, this is one of those Sentell, Intel, wait for it moments in this season. I think the thing Gunner Stockton does better than anything else as a passer is throwing it deep. I think he throws a better deep ball than Carson Beck did.
Wow.
Now, Carson was better at layering. He was better at the intermediate throws, but Gunner sending that thing down the field and letting one of his receivers go get it, that's probably one of the best things in his skill set besides his toughness and his legs. So that's my wait for it. Sooner or later, Gunner's going to take those shots and DawgNation will be finally, but I don't know if Georgia needs to pull that out of the hat right now.
Now, that's what I call some Sentell's intel right there. And with that, I'm going to get some more intel from you on some other things and storylines that we're going to see today. We talked a lot about the 2025s. A lot of them got to play throughout the first two games, but now that we're not in cupcake season anymore, who are those freshmen that are actually going to have meaningful snaps down the schedule?
Well, hate it for Ethan Barbour because he was playing as much as anybody, and he was helping Georgia with that short yardage run game. He's no longer a factor. You obviously got to start with guys like Elijah Griffin. I think that's a guy you look at. We haven't seen a lot of Bo Walker yet. Obviously, the name, Kaylee, and this is not a dazzling name, But I'm going to tell you, it's Dontrell Glover. He
Yeah.
had 44 snaps last week. Of course, some of that was injury, but Georgia doesn't give true freshmen that type of clock tick, that type of run, unless they've shown they can do it in practice, and they can play winning football. So I think freshmen that are on deck for me that I think are really going to click for Georgia, maybe Dontrell Glover, especially if you don't get Gaston yet. You have to kick Michael Uni out a little bit at right tackle again. How much are you going to get out of Ernest Green? I think you're going to get a lot of Ernest Green today. But, he's one of those guys. And, down through the line, you see a lot of capable guys. And another one of those, wait for it, Kaylee, Talon Taylor, multiple times last week.
You can tell Kirby likes him.
He's got him running as a gunner on special teams. How do you know Kirby Smart has a heart emoji for a player if he's letting him run gunner as a freshman on special teams? But there was one play, Kaylee, he was running off all by himself. And if Gunner wanted to go there, that would have been a 60, 70-yard touchdown. Talent is coming, guys. Just wait for that as well.
So one thing we're all a little bit guilty of here at DawgNation is buying stock into individual players. For me, it was Dalen Everett. For Connor, it was Elijah Griffin. For you, it was Noah Thomas, who had a better last game than the first game. He just didn't have that many opportunities. Are you still sold on him this point in the season? And what do you expect his performance to be like today? Do we see him get more involved?
Kaylee, back when we were in grade school and elementary school, when you got a new pair of shoes, right, you didn't wear them every day, right? You wore them on like those Fridays or maybe the field trip day. One of those days?
No,
you wore
I
them
can't
every
relate
day.
to that.
You
I'm wearing them every day.
But what I mean by that is Georgia really hadn't taken Noah Thomas out of the box yet.
Yeah.
Like I was around kids when they got their Santa list, got their Christmas, they kept their toy in the box. They preserved it that way. I wasn't that guy. I had them in mud holes or whatever, but I think Noah Thomas is one of those guys. The number one receiver for Texas A&M a year ago, I think he had 7 touchdowns last year. This is what you bring him to Georgia for. This is what you pay the money to come pull a guy like that out of the portal. And he's going to win a lot of one-on-one matchups, especially with Tennessee hurting at cornerback.
Yes.
They lost their preseason All-American during fall camp. Ricky Gibson, another guy from the state of Alabama, he's not going to go this week. So you're really going to try and take advantage where you can with those receivers. Here's the biggest thing about this game, Kaylee. I know we used to do Kaylee's Keys all the time or whatever. I'm curious if Tennessee's staff looks at how Gunner played against zone and cushions the first 2 weeks and say, we'll take that. We're going to give you that same look because we're going to think that's going to make Georgia less explosive. I'm curious to see how much zone, how much cushion Tennessee will give Georgia, or if they'll come up and play man. Because Kirby said all week, nobody plays them in our league like this. So if Tennessee decides, well, maybe that works best for us against this quarterback until he shows us otherwise, that's a big thing I'm looking for today.
So one thing we like to do on our recruiting show every Wednesday night before the Hedge is I always ask you for a piece of what we call Sentelligence. You have one final walk-off piece of Sentelligence for us.
I tell you what, get used to Georgia having better receivers than most of the conference.
Yeah, I like that.
Last night I saw Ryan Mosley, Craig Dandridge went off. You're going to combine that, Brady Marchese the week prior, combine that with the 5-star golden arm of Jared Curtis or Ryan Montgomery or Ryan Puglisi down the line. I think the receiver issue at Georgia in terms of playmakers, in terms of drops, that's been taken care of.
All right, well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, we're going to have Mike Griffith, who's going to help me look a little bit deeper into Tennessee. I love being on this boat. It is one of the joys of the year when we get to travel here. If we're going you might as well be doing this, but I love being at home. I love being in Athens. I love the home station of Jittery Joe's, and with Alabama coming up, it's going to be a really long day for a lot of people. You might need that midday pick-me-up cup of coffee, so come and join me at Jittery Joe's at the downtown location. The game's going to start at 7, show's going to start at 5, so come by, and if you've never been before, make sure to download the app. That way you can skip the line and also get money off that first coffee. So come see me at Jittery Joe's, and make sure to check them out online. All right, so we're going to bring in Mike, and he's going to get the microphone, and I'm going to help you put the headphones on.
Cheers. Thanks, Dr. Pepper.
He's got, wow. I don't know if I've ever seen you drink a Dr. Pepper before. I can hold that if you need me to. We've got a ton of it on the boat. There we go.
I will drink I will drink more than one Dr. Pepper.
I like to hear that.
And there's like a cheat code where if you heat it up in the microwave, it's really good warmed up too. People don't know that.
Didn't know that. All right, so you lived in Knoxville for a long time. You've covered this Tennessee team before. Did you ever get to do anything like this in your time here?
No. This is a one-of-a-kind event. You know, I was talking to Jeff about that before. I mean, how many places do you have an opportunity to go on a riverboat before a game in enemy waters, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like Vol Navy territory. They are shocked to see a Georgia fan base on the river like this. And the fact that we're able to do that with DawgNation and visit with so many fans and all these prizes are given away, I mean, it's unbelievable, Kaylee. This just doesn't happen anywhere else.
Can I just say that I do feel safer having you on this boat? Does that make sense?
Well, you should.
I do.
I speak Tennessee.
All right, so look, I brought you on because I want to do some talking about Tennessee specifically. I want to start with Joey Aguilar. A big offseason story. Nico goes to UCLA, then Tennessee takes Joey from them, and we weren't really sure at that point who was going to win the trade. I think it's very evident who won that this far. Let's take a look at Joey Aguilar's stats from this season so far. A really terrific passer in the games that they've played against Syracuse and East Tennessee State. 535 passing yards. He's 39 for 59 on the year with 5 touchdowns. Just like Gunner Stockton, has 0 interceptions. You see there, just 6 carries for 34 yards. Not a true dual threat quarterback, but I feel like he's found a way to adapt himself into this very unique offense really quick.
You know what it's like when they send your kids to school like the first few days and they give them really easy assignments?
Yeah.
So that everybody feels good about the new grade that they're in? Okay, well, that's what he's done so far does not equate to what he's going to be required to do today.
Okay.
He's going to see more pressure than he has seen since he played Clemson at Appalachian State. I believe he was like 14 of 41 passing in that game. So I'm not convinced this ship is starting to rock quite a bit here.
You can hold on to it if you need to.
Yeah, sorry about that. We've hit some rough waters here. But I think it was like 14 to 41. I mean, he hasn't seen the pressure. He hasn't seen the coverage. He hasn't had to call the protections. And listen, if he beats Georgia today, then I will quickly change my opinion. But this is a guy that's played for 2 junior colleges and 2 FBS schools and was hanging out at UCLA until he got a phone call at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that all those schools missed on him. It's possible that he's the Cinderella story, but I don't think it's likely. Not against this Georgia defense. I think the Georgia defense is probably the most under-talked about thing of the week, has been how good this Georgia defense can be and what they have, and that they really have not unleashed the Dogs. So we're going to find out, and we're going to find out what kind of team Georgia is, right? We're going to find out if this defense is really good enough to play the style of offense that Kirby wants to play, conservative passing game, run the ball, don't turn it over. Let's see if that worked. It worked in 2017.
Yeah.
Let's see if it works in 2025.
All right, so I'm glad that you bring up the Georgia defense because I agree with you. I think that they're one of the more under-talked-about groups, and I feel like that's because they haven't done anything wrong, but they also haven't done anything spectacular. But I do think when it comes to defense that no news is good news, so I do have a matchup of the day, and you basically summed it all up for me, Mike. I've got it as the Tennessee pass catchers versus the Georgia secondary. I'm really leaning into the Georgia secondary this year. You see it right there. Right now, Tennessee's averaging 352.5 passing yards per game, which is the first in the SEC. But like you brought up, 2 games that it doesn't really gauge how successful it's been this far. They've had 29 long passing plays on the year, which is just 10 yards or more, 7 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Then you've got the Georgia secondary, on the other hand, who's allowing about 140.5 passing yards per game. They've only allowed 9 long passing plays this year, but look at that number at the bottom there. 0 passing touchdowns. I know there was a lot of turnover in the secondary, specifically with the safeties, but it's KJ Bolden time now. I feel a lot better about what Georgia has at cornerback this year than they did last year, bringing back Daniel Harris, Dalen Everett. Now you know you've got Ellis Robinson and DeMello Jones. So this is the matchup that I'm really watching on the field today.
I don't know about DeMello Jones. He's gotten toasted pretty good for all the hype.
He's a body.
He has not lived up to it. But if you look at the deep passes that came with the backups in there, you know, if only Syracuse and East Tennessee State were in the SEC, Tennessee could feel good. But the fact of the matter is they've got a quarterback that was at Appalachian State, that was going to be at UCLA this year. He didn't go through spring drills. He's going to have the kitchen sink sung at him, thrown at him today pretty much, and all the pressure. I mean, Tennessee fans really believe they're going to win this game. They're looking at final scores, and Kirby Smart has not been trying to run the scores up on teams. He's not done a whole lot with downfield passes. They haven't done a lot of shifts and motions. So we haven't really seen the real Georgia offense yet. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters, but they're going to be a lot more effective, and they're going to do some things that are going to challenge the Tennessee defense that also lost some key personnel.
Yeah.
So I understand the vibe. I know the direction it's going, but I just don't feel it. I don't see where Tennessee is a world beater this year. This is not a great Tennessee football team. And to be frank, I don't know if I ever will see Gunner Stockton on an NFL roster, but I don't know that I will see Joey Aguilar either.
Yeah.
So this, to me, is going to come down to defense, mistakes, turnovers. Kirby Smart's played this game. Here's some stats for you.
Oh, tell me.
Josh Heupel's offense has not scored more than 17 points against the Georgia defense.
I know.
Josh Heupel's offense has not had a touchdown pass in the last 3 games. Josh Heupel is freaking out because there is no film of this Georgia defense doing anything other than standing around like wooden Indians. He has no idea what pressure package Georgia's going to play.
Yeah.
But he knows that everything's going to get thrown at him, and he knows that a lot of the pressure is going to be on Tennessee in that stadium. It'll start out loud, but by the third quarter, Kaylee, I'm not convinced that Tennessee can put many points on the board today.
Are we maybe going to see a second half Dogs again?
Perhaps. And then there's the other scenario, right? Now, Tennessee has scored first the last 5 times
That's true.
these teams have played.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll say that for Josh.
Do you want to take a bet on that? That's the one I would take.
I'm not going to make any bets on this one.
I'm not talking to you.
But worst case scenario, if Georgia were to fall behind by 2 scores, I've got a lot of confidence in Ryan Puglisi.
I
think
do.
Kirby's always got a card up his sleeve, and I think he feels very confident in Ryan Puglisi. And the reason that I say that is I don't think Kirby would have let Gunner Stockton run the ball 11 times in the opener if he didn't feel like he had another quarterback that was capable of playing. Now, you don't want to hold Gunner back and take away what he does best. That's part of it. And Gunner's a tough kid, and he's a smart kid. But still, your quarterback ran the ball 11 times against Marshall. That's pretty fearless play by Gunner, and pretty fearless by Kirby and Mike Bobo to let him do that, unless they know, that, hey, if something happens to Gunner, we've got another guy that can go in there and win games and potentially lead the team to a championship.
There's one last thing I want to talk to you about, because I feel like nobody is more qualified to answer this than you. Anytime that Georgia goes on the road to Tennessee, suddenly it gets brought up of how crazy the atmosphere is. And looking at the checkers, and it's intimidating. Do you believe that to be true, or is that more a myth that's been created by Tennessee fans?
No, it's true. And if Georgia went to Florida, you'd know that, because Florida's like this, and LSU is like this. But and Kirby will tell you Auburn's like this. Those are the 4 schools where things happen in these stadiums. And I saw it when I covered Alabama, and when Tennessee shifted that rivalry with Alabama in the 90s with Peyton Manning. I covered a lot of games in Neyland Stadium. It can be absolutely deafening. But I'll say this, Kaylee. Sanford Stadium, when Notre Dame came in 2019, and the last time Tennessee came, as a number 1 team in 2020, 8 motion, Sanford Stadium could get pretty raucous too. So, but the fact is that, yes, this venue is different. It's more vertical. You heard Tate Ratledge talk a lot about it while he was here. There is a different factor here, but this is why these guys come to Georgia.
Yeah.
They embrace these moments. They're going to have more fun playing in that stadium today, provided they execute, than they did playing in front of a half-empty stadium against Austin Peay. That stadium had no energy. Let's be honest. The lightning delay came and turned out the lights. Who cares? They're going to come out of that tunnel today, and they're going to feel it.
Plus, I think that Kirby Smart just does a really good job of preaching his teams that adversity is a good thing, pressure is a good thing. You want that, and we know that he's amazing at those speeches behind closed doors, and so he wants them to want that too. There's one last walk-off question I have for you.
I've got a comment to make about that quick.
No, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so that's chaos, right? You hear Kirby saying you got to be uncomfortable being comfortable. So when I served in the military, the drill sergeants would create a lot of chaos around you and a lot of uncomfortable moments, because they wanted you to be able to function amid chaos and stay calm and stay poised and stay disciplined. And it's really no different than how Kirby runs his practices when you think about it. He's constantly on the microphone. He's constantly breaking people down. He's constantly chewing people out. He's constantly making people feel apprehensive, so that when they get in environments like this, they're able to function in chaotic environments. And I think that's one of the winning edges for Georgia, is how Kirby coaches.
I feel like today is probably the most that we're going to learn about this Georgia team this far. One thing I don't think that we have learned, and I want to get your opinion on it this far, who is Georgia's best player?
Offense or defense?
On the team. Who is Georgia's best player?
I mean, I think C.J. Allen, to me, has really started to establish himself as a rock there at the mic. I love what K.J. Bolden brings, the electricity he plays with. He hasn't really grown into the leadership role yet. You'll hear him say, well, he's not really comfortable talking to guys yet. It's because, I don't want to hear because. You got to do it. You got to get to that point where you're able to vocally challenge and affect your teammates, and KJ's not there yet. C.J. Allen is. I feel like Christian is. I feel like offensively that Zachariah Branch has brought a bolt of energy and electricity that you feel like when you put the ball in his hands, he's going to catch it, and he's going to make yards after the catch. Beyond that, I think guys are still kind of fighting to emerge, and there's a lot of guys that can do it. They just haven't yet, and to your point, Kaylee, that's why we're going to learn so much about him. And when we talked with Reese Davis at game day yesterday, he said Georgia's got a lot of guys. He goes, they're not household names yet. He goes, they may be by the end of Saturday night.
I like that from Reese.
And Chris Cole's one of those guys.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So we're going to see some Georgia stars emerge. But, yeah, so far, C.J. Allen's the guy. And as much as we're going to learn today, just remember it's a playoff sport.
Yep.
And Alabama's next. And we're going to learn a lot about that game in 2 weeks. So there's a lot going on right now.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you first for joining me and say that I'm glad that you're here with us today in red, that you get to sit with us in the press box. Glad to have you here. That was your walk-off question.
That was my walk-off. Oh, who the best player was.
Yeah.
Okay. I still think Kirby Smart's the MVP.
I like that.
That's a
safe choice.
Well, he is. He's the winning edge. He's what you got that nobody else has.
All right, so really quick, I'm going to take this from you. You can take the headphones off. Yeah, we'll get Connor over here in just a second. Of course, you can check out Mike and Cody Chapin's on Mondays at 7 o'clock for their On the Beat show. When we come back, we're going to have Connor Riley. Brandon Adams will join us later. We're going to take a quick break. We will be back in less than a minute.
Nothing makes a house feel more like a home than quality windows. So trust the professionals at Pella Window and Door of Georgia. We'll equip your home with energy-efficient windows and doors just right for you. Schedule your free in-home, no-pressure consultation. Get product samples, installation options, and a free quote. Log on to PellaGA.com and visit our new Experience Center in Duluth. Tell them Brandon Adams sent you. Pella Window and Door of Georgia, viewed to be the best.
Hey, Dawg Nation, I'm Brandon Adams. If you love what Kaylee Mansell does here in our DawgNation Gameday pregame show, and I know you do, you'll also love our DawgNation postgame show. After every UGA home game, we're live at the UGA bookstore. And after every game, we're also available to you on the DawgNation video channels. We have video highlights, live calls, plenty of post-game reaction. Hopefully, talking about big Georgia wins each and every Saturday. The place to be after the game is on the DawgNation post-game show. We'll see you there after today's game.
This is DawgNation Game Day, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors, Kroger, R.S. Andrews, and Jittery Joe's Coffee.
All right, we're getting our first look at Neyland Stadium now from the river. I think I forgot how big it was, like just the way it's built.
It is like one of those European cathedrals where it is built straight up in the air, and it's a very unique stadium in that sense.
So we've got a lot of Georgia football to talk about, but I just want to say thank you for being on the boat. I can't believe we got you on water. I can't believe I have you here in person. It's always much better that way.
I am officially on the boat this time. This is a rare sight. I know a lot of people want me on the cruise, so I'm glad to be here. We're having fun. We're getting close to land, and so can't wait for that.
Yeah, we're going to take full advantage of you being here, too. With Mike, I talked a little bit about what to expect from the Tennessee offense, from Joey Aguilar, but I kind of want to get more specific into what we've seen so far, this rivalry between Kirby Smart and Josh Heupel. Now, Tennessee known for the way they run their offense, spread it out, move it really fast. 9 of their touchdowns this year have been scored in under just 3 minutes, but Kirby Smart seems to have found a way to figure it out. When you look at Tennessee's total yards per game, the average over the last 4 years, it's much higher than when they've played Georgia. We'll look at some examples here. You've got 2022. They were averaging 525 yards per game, just 289 against Georgia with a difference of 236. Each and every year, especially since 2022, it's been more. Oh, we've got some Georgia fans, I believe. The Georgia buses. All right, looks like the team is pulling up now. But when you look at the numbers, Connor, Is it safe to say that Josh Heupel has a Kirby Smart problem?
Absolutely. I think Kirby has figured out this offense to a T, no pun intended there. Got a taste of it when Heupel was at Missouri in like 2018. Drew Lock was the quarterback there, and I think he sort of just figured out the math behind it where their corners are good enough to where Georgia can just play man on the back end, and they can use a lightened box where they still probably only have 6 guys in there, but use their physical abilities to sort of dominate in there and just make things really difficult for Tennessee. And the Georgia dominance over Tennessee doesn't just extend to the Heupel area, it goes beyond that. Today will be the 20th time that Kirby Smart is an on-field coach in a game against Tennessee. In those games, his teams are 18-1, going for win number 19 today. The one loss, obviously, the Hail Mary back in 2016. But Kirby, who is well aware of the fact that he never beat Tennessee in college, that became a storyline this week. He's seen that Peyton Manning interception he had in '95 about 40,000 times, and every time he has the same reaction, well, we lost that game. So I think this game means a lot to Kirby, and it is a chance to once again for him to show he's one of, if not the best defensive coaches in the country.
And it's funny you say that because Kirby Smart had a lot to say about Tennessee's offense this week with high remarks. This is Coach Smart.
I mean, the problem with Tennessee's offense is that everybody's one-on-one every play. I mean, it just puts you out on an island, and you have weaknesses. They can expose them very quickly. So it's challenging to try to present them with issues and complications.
He makes it sound like he's not 8-1 against the Vols. I think you brought up a lot of good points and why Georgia has been so successful against the Tennessee offense. But, how much of that is the difference in talent versus just the overall strategy that Kirby has against this particular offense?
I think it's the talent that informs the scheme in terms of what Georgia does, the way that they recruit. I know Jeff talked earlier about the recruiting advantage that Georgia has just traditionally had. They recruit so well on the defensive line, they recruit so well at the linebacker position, and they've done a great job of keeping this secondary together with guys like Ellis Robinson, Dalen Everett, that it all sort of works in conjunction. And because of the way they recruit, that allows them to play a scheme that makes them very successful against Tennessee. Conversely, like Alabama's recruited very well in recent years, but they have not had the same level of success against Josh Heupel and this Tennessee offense. And so I think it all starts with recruiting, as it does with this Georgia program, and they just sort of go from there and build out from it.
As far as talent goes, one of the things that I'm interested to seeing today is the performance of both offensive lines, not just Georgia, but also Tennessee's, because they're the only 2 schools in the SEC that have not given up a sack this year. I know Tennessee doesn't like their offensive line very much. People are still up in the air about Georgia's offensive line, but when you look at the numbers, it doesn't tell that same story.
Right, so much of the Georgia offensive line story right now is on that right side of the line where Ernest Green, I believe he's going to start and plays as close to full strength as he has been. Juan Gaston is questionable. He's going to try and get it out in pregame warmups. Maybe we see him play, but I think you're going to see a rotation on that offensive line for Georgia, where you do see a lot of Dontrell Glover, who they like a lot, Michael Inouye as well as a somewhat more experienced guy. But for Georgia, it's really that right side of the offensive line that has drawn some criticism and some focus. And if we are able to see, I think, Ernest Green out there today, I think that's going to help clear up a lot of those issues.
It's interesting that you say that because according to, maybe one of the best sources in the entire world, Andrew Smart, Juan Gaston's finna play.
Juan Gaston is fitting to play. Obviously, Andrew tweeting that out, posting on Instagram, I believe, on Thursday afternoon. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Andrew's gotten in trouble with Tennessee-related things before. We obviously can't show that video, but it'll be interesting to see if that ends up becoming the case.
Yeah, the real betting odd is Andrew Smart going to be here today or not? Is he grounded at home?
I have to wonder, is he going to be out there on the sidelines? I think that's certainly something that some will be looking for.
So something that I guess I want to say didn't see last week was the fact that a tight end didn't have a catch for the first time since 2021. Now, Oscar Delp really had that breakthrough game last season when they played at Tennessee. Do you think we see them getting more involved today?
I think you do. I think Tennessee's obviously aware of the fact that Delp beat them last year. That was a stylistic choice that Tennessee elected to make. I think Tennessee's linebackers are the weakest part of their team, and that is something that Georgia is going to try to exploit. If they can get Lawson Lucky in coverage, singled up on a linebacker, I think that's a matchup that Georgia can very much try and target. Obviously, losing Ethan Barbour, it's no small thing given just how versatile he was. But I think this is a game today where you want to see Gunner lean on his weapons, get the ball to guys like Colby Young, Zachariah Branch on the outside, and then I think leverage those tight ends in the red zone area and use that to sort of get touchdowns, like they did last year, propelling Georgia to a win.
I think that Georgia had the talent advantage with the pass catchers before, but now we know that both of Tennessee's starting corners are going to be out. Do you think that if Georgia walks away with this win, Tennessee's going to try to look at this game with an asterisk on it, like we didn't have our best guys?
No, because I just think that's life in the SEC when you play at this high and this physical level. Jermon McCoy tore his ACL in January. They've known for a while they probably weren't going to have him in this game. Ricky Gibson has been out since early in that Syracuse game. They've liked the play they've gotten out of their cornerbacks early on thus far, but I think Tennessee understands, like, this is just life in the SEC. No David Sanders today for them either, and you just play in this league long enough, you know that you're going to have to find a way to win games when some of your best players are not able to perform.
One thing I'm excited for about today is I feel like this is when we really start to see the individual players start to shine, because so much of the playbook is held back in the first two games. No holding back today. So today's impact players feels really important. We both have an offensive and defensive one. I'm going to start with my offensive one, which is going to be Zach Branch, who had such an incredible game one. Didn't get to see as much of him in game two, but the excitement that he brings to the offense, his skill set is so dynamic. I feel like maybe that's a piece that Georgia's been missing so far. And with 18.7 yards per catch, there's something about Zach Branch. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but I feel like every time he gets the ball, there's a chance for Georgia to score.
Yeah, it's worked out so far that every catch he's had so far has gone for an explosive play based on the metrics that Georgia uses. And so I think you go out there today, again, you're not going to spray him with targets like you saw Colby Young get a week ago, but can you scheme him up and put him in situations like they did in that Marshall game where he takes a slant and has enough cushion to turn that into a 20-yard game, take a swing pass and turn maybe even a 20-yard game into a 47-yard touchdown. Similarly for me, my impact player on the offensive side of the ball is Dwight Phillips. I know you...
Really quick before you move on, can I say one thing?
You can.
So I actually had some help with my impact players. I had some advice from a Georgia player who I'm basically just going to let do my impact players today. This is Christian Miller on Zach Branch.
That fire, that electricness, like I knew he was that live on a video game, but in real life he even liver. So just bringing him into our offense, we got a lot of good weapons on our offense already, but just bringing him, it just brings a lot of, extra boost for us.
I feel like I cheated a little bit because you're going to hear from Christian Miller from both of my players today, but the way he made them sound, I'm like, how could I not choose them? All right, give me your first one, Connor.
Yeah, so I think Dwight Phillips, similar reasons. You look for the explosiveness in that Georgia rushing game. He's had that already. There's been some talk, is he better than Nate Frazier? I'm not quite willing to go that far, but in each of Georgia's first two games, he's ripped off explosive runs, and I think he's a guy today where, yes, I think Georgia's going to lean on their running game. They're going to want to drain this game, make it a little bit shorter. I think Dwight Phillips, even though he's more of a speed back, can be the hammer, the exclamation point that drives home a big touchdown today. And so I think Dwight Phillips is someone that can have a major impact on this game.
And where I feel like Dwight Phillips has made all of the difference too is he's already proven himself, where I feel like there's a lot of other guys on the roster we're kind of waiting for that big moment to happen, but those moments have already happened for Dwight Phillips, and I feel like he's already exceeded the expectations that have been set in place for him.
Right, you had the big touchdown last year against Florida. I think that was a big moment for him, showing that he can do it in an SEC game. And then the start that he's had this year, where yes, he was a revelation coming out of that Marshall game, but then I think he backed it up last week with more solid play against Austin Peay. I know there's been a lot of talk about the running game and how Georgia maybe had to lean on Nate Frazier. Through two games, I think you feel good about the three tandem running back situation you have with Phillips, with how Chauncey Bowens played a week ago, and I think you feel better about the idea of leaning on the running game for Georgia this week.
So opposite of Dwight Phillips, I'm going with some speculation and maybe a little bit of hope and optimism on my defensive impact player, and that's Gabe Harris. I'm mostly doing this because Tennessee offensive line hasn't allowed a sack this year. I feel like Joey Aguilar just hasn't seen that much pressure from the teams that they face. I feel like we're waiting for someone in this edge group to really pull through, have that breakthrough performance. Gabe Harris has been with the program just as long as anybody in that group. He's leading a group of young guys and transfers. The stats so far don't tell an incredible story, but this could potentially be the game where Gabe Harris makes a difference simply just by putting his hands in the face of Joey Aguilar.
Right, and this is the first time Joey Aguilar has ever faced an SEC defense, and so I think that is something to certainly watch, how he feels to adjusting to the speed of the game and what Georgia's able to do. Gabe Harris is a versatile piece where I don't know if he's always going to have the statistical impact, but in the way he destroys blocks and the way they move him around and what that frees up for other guys to do, I think is why he can be such an impactful player for this Georgia team.
Who's the defensive guy for you?
For me, it's Raylan Wilson. We saw him get that big 4th down stop a week ago. You know, C.J. Allen's earned a lot of praise, obviously rightfully so this far this season, but I think the athleticism that he has and the ability to make plays sideline to sideline is something that really suits Raylan's ability thus far. So I think Raylan Wilson this week is a big guy to watch in that linebacker room as a playmaker for this Georgia defense.
And I feel like he didn't really get the recognition that maybe I thought he would going into the season, just because a lot of it was overshadowed by C.J. Allen. But we've been watching Raylan Wilson play since he was a true freshman. He knows the defense really well. So I think this is someone that we could honestly make an impact player every game throughout the season.
And it speaks to the depth they have in that linebacker room, where you could say Chris Cole, maybe even a Justin Williams potentially. I'm interested in seeing what his role looks like today. But the fact that you can count on guys like C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson to make an impact, I think ultimately is why Georgia has the edge in this game.
All right, Connor, thanks for joining me.
Yep.
All right, so we've got Brandon Adams on, and he's going to help me with my keys to the game. But before we do that, it's time for Smart Talk. And each week we try to dig inside the mind of Kirby Smart to learn what it takes to build a championship program. And this week, it's all about the prep to deal with this crazy, crazy environment on the road in Tennessee.
This is a huge matchup.
Everybody doubted us.
Fire, passion, and energy.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Run the ball and play good defense.
You have to pick your poison.
And it's going to be physical. It's going to be tough.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not say.
Neyland Stadium is one of the largest and loudest places in the SEC. So how do you get a football team prepared to deal with all of this?
Coach Smart does an amazing job of making it loud and making it uncomfortable on Tuesday, Wednesday, every day.
Kirby's going to yell, and Kirby's going to blare Rocky Top on the speakers. But before all of that, Kirby must get himself ready first.
Well, I think it's a mental disposition, and it's part of your planning. You know, there's certain things you can do at home that you can't do on the road. You have to be smart as a game planner, what kind of situations you put your team in, and where the field position is, what's the down and distance, and your approach to your game planning is, defensively and offensively, you have to think about that. And me being in this league for a long time, it plays a factor on the ability to execute when you're in an environment that maybe someone's never been in. And you have to be smart about what you're asking them to execute, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Who can execute, who can block and tackle, and who can be physical.
But learning to keep your head while all of Big Orange is losing theirs doesn't just start on Monday.
Our preseason camp is extremely physical, and we prepare during that time as if we're playing each other. So it's what we do each day. It's what we believe in. I don't think you can prepare the next 5 days for it, no.
And no one is spared, especially the kicker, who may have to stare down these balls with it all on the line. So what exactly does Kirby say to Peyton Woodring to get him ready?
That I better make it. Basically, I mean, he tries to put some pressure on me. Kind of just sometimes he tries to get in my way, throw my focus off. But, just kicking through those things get you better. I mean, whenever there's 100,000 people yelling at you, it's probably a little bit louder than Coach Smart yelling at me.
And that's your Smart Talk for Week 3. We've talked about the craziness from Vols fans. I mean, you can see it here for yourself. Bad looks all day, thumbs down. They may be crazier, but I'm telling you, the Georgia fans that we've had on this boat have been louder.
What a day it has been, Kaylee Mansell. I would say DawgNation Invasion on the Tennessee River. When we did this in 2023, it was amazing. I think we may have topped ourselves here today. I've been up and down this boat, multiple levels here, and every Georgia fan I've talked to, two things. They're all having a great time, and B, they are ready to watch Georgia beat Tennessee once again for a 9th straight time. And the painting of Knoxville completely and totally red and black, it is going to continue as well, because that is the way we like it.
So I know that you picked Georgia to cover, but I don't think this week that you've had your Disney dog goggles on.
I've been nervous.
As of right now, where do your feelings stand about this game?
So this is why I love coming to the games. And I'm telling you right now, not everybody has the same privilege we have, and I understand that. But you've got to get around Georgia fans for a game. Now, listen, there's something to be said sometimes for watching in the privacy of your own home, don't have distractions, people ask you questions, things like that. But I tell you this, to have the experience of being around a lot of Georgia fans, as someone who deeply wants Georgia to win this game, you can't be around this atmosphere, DawgNation on the river here, our DawgNation Invasion, without gaining some confidence for that. In all honesty, I do expect it to be a close game. I expect Georgia to make enough plays to win. I don't anticipate this being the kind of blowout it's been previous years, but any doubt you might have had, and look, this obviously doesn't guarantee anything, and who knows if it holds up through the game, but when you see the level of enthusiasm that's on tap right now, you get the impression the Georgia fans are more than ready.
So I'm thankful that today you're going to help me with my keys. I will do the honor of going first, and then we'll let you go. I feel like ours kind of go hand in hand in terms of just like opposite sides of the field. I really want to see Georgia's front seven get after it today. I've kind of said all week long, I feel like the Georgia defense, it's been quiet because they haven't done anything bad, but also maybe haven't done anything to stand out. But still think there's a lot of talent in this group, but I want to see a really aggressive front seven today. Take advantage of the young offensive line they're going to be facing against Tennessee. I want to see them eliminate that run game. We know that Tennessee's a more pass-heavy team, but if you take out that option, I think that Georgia's got a really good corners, good safeties. So I think that the secondary is a big advantage there, so go ahead and take out that. And I think that we need to see Joey Aguilar under pressure. Hasn't had a sack all year, hasn't had many quarterback hurries. I want to see what the Georgia defense can do against a guy who the numbers impress us, but I don't know if the opponents has impressed
Well,
me.
I'll say two things about what you just said there. First of all, in the case of Joey Aguilar, if you look at where Georgia's gotten pressure on Tennessee, even predating the Josh Heupel era, some of that's been blitz coming from the secondary. We all remember Eric Stokes in 2019, Javon Bullard in 2022. So if you want to roll the dice on a, hey, maybe this might happen, does Georgia create pressure from someone in the secondary? I have half kiddingly, half seriously said, what if it's KJ Bolden today who gets in on a sack? That's not maybe the first one you'd think of getting a sack, but what if Georgia does today what it's done in the past, confusing the Tennessee quarterback by bringing something from the secondary? And also, real quick, your point about the front seven, who knows how real it is because it's obviously a lesser degree of competition, but Gabe Harris, Joseph Jonah-Janye, Chris Cole, the guys that have stood up for Georgia in the first couple of games, I do think they give you a lot of promise as to what the rest of this season can be.
And I feel like when you ask Kirby Smart about specific individuals, specific position groups, he's very neutral with his answers, never too happy, never too mad. But this is a Kirby Smart that seems really confident in his run defense. This is what he said earlier this week.
Good. I would say that it hasn't been challenged, but I promise you it will be this time because these guys are good at it. They know what they're doing. They know how to attack you. And they have wrinkles, and they do a really good job. You better be able to strike blocks and get off blocks and tackle people because they're very physical.
All right, so Kirby Smart seems fairly confident in this group. This is something they've been emphasizing all season, want to run the ball well, also want to stop the run. I know that your key has to do with running the ball, especially when it comes to Nate Frazier. Why is that important in today's game?
Yeah, as someone who is a Georgia fan that desperately wants Georgia to win this game, if you gave me the choice of who I'd like to see play player of the game today, well, obviously Nate Frazier would be my first choice for that. Georgia has said for its entire offseason he wants to be better at running the football this year. Frazier's really the guy that I think should be best equipped to do that. Really promising freshman season a year ago, statistically speaking, among the better freshmen in recent memory for Georgia when it comes to carrying the football. Also a guy that, look, he's going to get his chances today. Folks remember fumble that he had last week. Great chance for him to shake that off. You need confidence for Gunner Stockton. No better way to establish that confidence than with a really strong running game. I think that Chauncey Bowen's a part of it. I think that Dwight Phillips is certainly a part of it. But I believe it's Nate Frazier that needs to lead the way today.
Yeah, I still am waiting on that breakout game from Nate Frazier. Still the team's leading rusher, but it's the yards per carry that's a little bit concerning to me at this point. Now, I do think
you
that
want to see guys made miss in the second level, whether it be because of a good block or because, Frazier makes a move. Let's not see Georgia running backs, Frazier included, run into would-be tacklers. Let's see them do what Dwight Phillips has done a good job of, which is running away from some of those guys.
Right, so obviously what we're doing here is so special with our invasions on the road. Big home game coming up against Alabama. You got to start thinking about your tailgate needs now. Keep Kroger in the back of your mind for that.
Absolutely. Listen, I drove from my home to Knoxville today. I'll be driving back tomorrow, driving all throughout the week, going to high school football, things like that. Great chance to save at the pump when you become a Kroger Boost member, but also a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to become a Kroger Boost member and get more time for the stuff you love. How about free grocery delivery, free grocery pickup as you're getting stocked up for your game day party today? Now, it's probably not going to be as grand as our DawgNation Invasion party has been, but if you want an awesome experience, Kroger's going to get you set up and ready to go for game day, and the best way to get the most out of that is by becoming a Kroger Boost member.
So if you're on social media, if you've watched anything on TV today, you're going to hear all things Neyland Stadium. They're going to say that Tennessee really does have a chance in this game, but when we look back at recent history, that hasn't necessarily been the case. Here's a look back on the Dogs' victories over the Volunteers.
Really excited about this matchup, one of the toughest places to play in all of college football.
This is more than 100,000 people screaming, incredible environment in Tennessee.
Neyland Stadium's the toughest place to play college football.
Here come the Bulldogs. They won here 2 years ago. They won here 4 years ago.
He drove right over Orange Church, just driving and running with those big thighs. Georgia beat Tennessee in Knoxville.
He will score. Touchdown, Georgia.
Sean Jones going all the way. Sean Jones all the way. We just crushed their face. He's running over people.
Here he goes. One man to beat. Touchdown, Georgia.
See many thousands had left. Hey, up the middle 50, 45, dance the man 40, 35. Georgia's defeated Tennessee 35-31 in Neyland Stadium.
And Dylan Bell lofts it out there to a wide open Rosamie Jack-Saint. Touchdown, Georgia. That's good to
All right, throughout the first two games, one of the things I talked about is what do we learn about the team? What do we learn about the team? Well, today we're going to learn about Georgia's team. I think that's the most exciting part of it all, is knowing that we're going to walk away out of here knowing who Georgia's best players could potentially be, knowing what a successful offense looks like under Gunner Stockton. This is a great environment and a good test and adversity for these guys in their first SEC matchup. Also happens to be on the road. I'm excited for no more cupcakes and to watch some SEC football.
Yeah, one of the things that Kirby Smart said a lot in recent weeks is it's process over results, and I understand why he says that when he means what he does. I would say that's true for Austin Peay. That's true for Marshall. Today's a game in which results matter. Tennessee wants this win bad. Georgia fans want to see this winning streak extended. And really, with the strong likelihood that the yearly version of this rivalry comes to an end after this season, you can claim ultimate victory in the rivalry if you conclude the yearly portion of it by winning for a ninth straight time. So it's process mattering, but the result is one we'll be talking about for the rest of this year. So the stakes could not be higher.
Brandon, one final thought from you before we wrap it up, either about today's matchup or just what we've experienced here all together as Georgia fans.
I'm so thankful for Georgia fans, those that come on DawgNation Invasion. I wish everyone could be here. I love it. And in addition to what we just said, obviously it's a big day for the Georgia running game. At least it needs to be. But you also want to see big offseason acquisitions. Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas. They need their chance to be a part of this game plan, to get some big catches. If we're calling their name, if it's 15 catches combined for Noah Thomas, for Zachariah Branch, and for Colby Young, it's probably been a very good day for Georgia.
Yeah, and with as much as they've been talked about in the offseason, I want to see that reward pay off. We know that money was spent. Sounds like the connection is really strong. Hopefully we'll get to see it all out there on the field. DawgNation, thank you so much for joining us. The next time that we get the chance to do this, I hope you can all join us because it truly is a one-in-a-kind type of experience. So thanks for joining us. We've got kickoff coming up very shortly. So hopefully when Brandon Adams joins you on the postgame show, it'll be all good things.
Enjoy the game, everybody.